Here with me in the studio, our international affairs commentator, Douglas Herbert. So, Doug, four big witnesses today. What can we expect?
Yeah, 4 and 9 in the next few days. These are public impeachment hearings that are gaining in intensity and the number of people testifying. Look, today, first, what we can expect is just the profile of the two people testifying is perhaps worth noting. You have a decorated Army veteran, a man who was the recipient of the Purple Heart of Bravery, who fought in Iraq, was wounded there, top Ukraine expert on the U.S. National Security Council, Alexander Vindman, Lieutenant Colonel, testifying alongside on the same panel Jennifer Williams, who was a senior advisor to the Vice President, Mike Pence, on Russia and Europe. So both of them sitting there basically taking questions in the opening part of this testimony from the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, the Democratic chairman, Adam Schiff, who's basically been going back and forth and sort of volleying questions to each of them. In Williams' case, she started out defending, basically talking about her record. She has served for decades across various Republican administrations, a long records. She is the one who'd said in her closed-door testimony, which was reported heavily in the U.S. press, that she found the July 25th call between Trump and Zelensky unusual and inappropriate. That is something that she repeated today, saying it's basically improper that the president would demand that a foreign government investigate a political opponent, presumably for his own political benefit, i.e. to get himself reelected in 2020. Colonel Vindman, sitting alongside her, he talked about how he fled Ukraine, how his father took his family, that it was probably the best decision he ever made. Why did he go? When he listened in, along with Jennifer Williams, on this July 25th phone call, they both were privy to the actual phone call, listening to it, unlike some of the other people who've testified. So they were direct testifiers, direct witnesses. He basically said why he was so alarmed, so concerned at the nature of what he was hearing on that call, that he said he acted through the legal chain of command, and he took his concerns to his superior at the National Security Council, top lawyer on that council, to express those concerns. He said he never thought in a million years that it would get to the point where he's sitting before millions of Americans and before this Senate, this House panel testifying on this matter. He said he was merely acting out of a sense of his military duty, a professional duty, and a sense of duty to his country. Both of these witnesses together, if you want to sort of lump it together, if there's a unifying message in their testimony today, it is that Donald Trump's assertion all along has been that his phone call on July 25th with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was what President Trump called a perfect call. No extortion, no bribery, no quid pro quo, so to speak. These witnesses today are poking very big holes, not small holes, very big holes in that testimony. But let's wait, because they are going to be questioned as well by the Republican members of that panel shortly.
Now, U.S. networks are showing these public hearings wall-to-wall, broadcasting non-stop.
Yes.
How many Americans are watching, though?
How many Americans are watching? Okay, the easy answer is...
I know you don't have the exact figure, but...
No, and I can't. No one has the exact figure. The easy answer being, in this age of sort of disparate, segmented, fragmented media where people watch things on live stream on the internet, they don't get their news anymore the way they did back in the Watergate hearing days, back in 1973 and 1974. Back then, Richard Nixon's impeachment hearings were broadcast live by the three major U.S. networks, television networks. People literally sat riveted to their screens in prime time. That is after work. They were at night. An estimate was that tens of millions of Americans tuned into that. Maybe 8 out of 10 Americans. 8 out of 10. I see you raise your eyebrows. It's a staggering figure. You can't imagine any nationally televised event today garnering that sort of audience. Yet back then, the Watergate hearings didn't. Perhaps also, besides the fragmentation of the audience, we're told that about 13 million, as far as you can measure by the networks, tuned in to the first public impeachment inquiry hearings last week. 13 million, nothing to sneeze at in an American population of about 330, 340 million. It's a lot of people, but it's nothing like the old days. And also, I suspect that the disinformation and misinformation being spread by some networks in the U.S., especially Fox News, means that a lot of Americans, even though they're watching the impeachment inquiry, are watching it in a parallel universe. They are getting entirely different information. And often when you see witnesses, the captions below them are essentially smears against those witnesses, or quoting Trump's attacks against those witnesses, Trump's words against them. So it's a totally different bubble, a totally different vision. So you can't just talk about the number of viewers watching. You have to take into consideration where, through what channel are they getting their information? Is it reliable? Is it accurate? Is it rigorous? Is it fact-checked? And on that count, I'm sorry to say, there's more cause for pessimism than optimism at this point. Fox News, I will just leave you with this, had 2.9 million more viewers watching it than watching CNN for the first impeachment inquiry hearing last week.